Hi guys, it's Jasmine. Today I'll be doing another painting with me video and I'll be showing you guys how I painted this painting behind me right here. And this video is in partnership with VSCO, so I want to thank VSCO for sponsoring this video. And let's just jump right into painting. For this painting, I'll be painting with oils, and I like using a wooden canvas over linen because I tend to get OCD when I see the little white dots from the linen pop up after a layer of paint. This canvas is already pre-primed, so I'm using some warm tones as a base layer, and I'm mixing the paint with gamsol because it allows the paint to dry way faster and it's also very thin. So while I'm doing that, I'll talk a bit more about the app VSCO. If you guys didn't know already, it is an editing app. It's where I edit most of my pictures actually. I don't really use any other apps because I don't have the time for that. But they also have a lot of other features. You guys can download the app for free and join as a member to access all of VSCO's presets, latest creative tools, and educational content. Today I'll be painting from a reference image, and this is actually one of my assignments for school, but I'll be using the community tab in VSCO to search for inspiration. I mainly use the app to edit my photos and stories. A lot of my friends that are interested into photography post on there, and I realized that it's such a great way to share your creativity on. On other social media apps, everyone, including me, we're all pressured by likes and comments. It's a way that society holds on to its power. We constantly feel judged by people and base our happiness on Instagram likes. VSCO actually doesn't have that. They don't have any likes or comments, and I feel like that's very freeing. So if you actually go into the Discover tab in VSCO, they have a bunch of subcategories within it where you could find inspiration for. For example, I was looking at the water tab to see if I could find any reference images for the landscape that I want to draw. Another one that I was looking at was winter, and these pictures are just all so beautiful. Like, it hit me a long time ago that photography is so hard and I probably could not do that. For this reference picture, I actually chose a photo that my friend took. He posted it onto his little VSCO feed. His pictures are all really pretty. This is a landscape photo from California, I believe, one of the beaches there. Getting back to the painting, the underpainting provides a sense of tonality and it also saves a lot of time because you basically know where everything is. And I started out first by using a palette knife, and then after I changed my mind and I was like, a brush is gonna make this much faster for me. I'm actually not the biggest fan of painting landscapes. I find them a little bit boring. I like to paint portraits more, but my studio assignment for this was to paint a landscape, so that's why I chose clouds. Anyways, I'm just blocking in some colors so that I could go in later with more detail. I'm really happy that I managed to set up a little studio workspace for myself in the living room of this apartment. I think a workspace is very important to me because if it's messy, then I just don't feel like working. So if I keep it neat and decorated, I feel more inclined to work. And unless I am working on a super big painting, I tend to like working at home because, I don't know, I just feel so much more productive at home instead of being in a studio at school. The mood to me is also very important. I like having background music on when I work, or random YouTube videos that I could just listen to in the background. While I like painting during the day because the lighting is much better, due to time constraints for the first layer, I'm painting it at night. But when I'm painting at night, I like to have candles lit because it gives, that mood. I also have a lot of dried flowers laying around my workspace because, first of all, I can't keep a single plant alive, and second of all, I just love the way they look. Anyways, how have you guys been? I've been pretty tired and busy lately. I don't think a lot of people realize this, but art school is extremely time consuming. You need to find a healthy balance between school, friends, and just giving some more time to yourself. I've been trying to juggle school, my tattoo apprenticeship, and YouTube. It was hard in the beginning, but I think that I've reached a kind of semi-healthy balance. Here in school, I'm surrounded by so much art, and I'm also required to create a lot of art in a short period of time. I think it's safe to say that in the moments that I'm awake, I am always creating something. But sometimes it's hard for me too. Some days I wake up and I feel like doing nothing, which is okay. Give yourself some time. But at the same time, I also know that I need to get up and do work. I'm a naturally competitive person, and being around creative people makes me feel like I need to compare myself to them in order to feel better about myself. But personally, I think that feeling a little bit of competitiveness is okay because it helps me motivate myself a bit more. But if it's to the point where you feel hate, contempt, or jealousy towards someone else's work, then that's really unhealthy, because by feeling that way, your work is never going to improve. Speaking of motivation, sometimes I get art block and I'm just like, what do I do? But I think that inspiration can come from anywhere, and for me, dreams and nature are my biggest inspirations. I don't think I've told you guys this before, but my dreams are all very, very vivid and they're all very dark. I'm also very drawn to pretty and mystical looking things, so if you combine that with my dreams and something from the real world, then I can find a lot of inspiration from that. I think that you can also always find inspiration from music, films, and other artists. Today, in this day and age, the internet is very helpful. I also find a lot of inspiration from my past and the emotions that I felt behind them. As I'm painting from a reference image right now, I don't want it to look exactly like the picture. I'm not a big fan of hyperrealism. I want it to look something more of my own. Due to foundation year during my freshman year of college, I wasn't really able to develop my own style given that we were just required to do things. But this year, now that I'm a sophomore, I'm finally able to experiment around and start developing my own style. I'm still learning and I'm still young, so nothing is permanent right now. Anyways, going back to painting, I like to add more details as I go along with it. I start out very broad and then I kind of zero in on the details at the end. For this landscape piece, I was actually thinking of painting with very thick paint, but as of now, I don't prefer painting really thickly. I actually prefer thinner coats, which is what I ended up doing. I also forgot to mention, but I use mainly 3 mediums for oil painting. I like to use gamsol as a paint thinner and to wash my brushes with, liquin, which is kind of to help with transparency and flow of the paint, and finally walnut oil, which helps with also consistency, and it also dries faster in comparison to other oil mediums. Most of the time during my creative process, there's always a point where I'm getting towards the end and I'm like, I am so done and tired of painting this. And then at this point, I usually take a break from it, or I like to add other elements, which, for example, for this piece, you'll see later that I added glitter to it. For me, painting is a process that is fun for me to do, so once I reach the state of boredom, I'm like, I gotta stop now and change this up. For me, there's always some sort of thought behind each one of my paintings. Even for this one where it's just a reference image, there's a story behind it. A friend that I got closer to during the summer, and it's of the beach in California. When I go back home, I always go to the beach, and I just make so many memories there with my friends. Not every piece of art that you make has to be so deep to the point where it's like, oh, this symbolizes myself and blah 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 blah. Another factor to my art is that I want it to look pretty for me and my viewers. What I find to be pretty, you might not find to be pretty, and it's all very, very subjective, which is what art is, basically. Sometimes I also have the mindset that a piece is never finished because you can always add on more things to it. That hinders my creative process because then I'll never feel like I'm finished, and I'll never be satisfied. Due to the time constraints that I have, I've learned that it's okay to not be fully satisfied as long as I am to some degree happy with the work that I've created. And it's also okay to leave things unfinished as long as you remember to go back to them in the future. I also believe in happy mistakes. You guys can't tell, but I've messed up so many times while painting this. Probably said fuck behind the camera like 20 times. But in the end, that's all part of the process. And when you mess up, you fix it, and then you mess up again. And who knows, it could turn into something good, and that's very exciting. I think that I've learned a lot in the past few months, and that's what's been helping me develop myself and improve myself and my art altogether. Like I've mentioned before, the thought process behind each one of my pieces is always changing, and I hope it's changing for the better, but I wonder what my thought process would be in the future. I would love to know what inspires you guys, so please don't forget to comment that down below. I actually messed up on painting the birds towards the end, but like I said before, happy mistakes, it actually turned out better, messed up. This is the part where I was like, this painting is finished, I'm gonna glitterify it and make it look pretty, and I'm really glad that I did that. I think that by adding glitter to the painting, it made it look much more exciting rather than some boring old landscape. We've reached the end of this painting, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the process. Again, I want to thank VSCO for partnering up with me for this video, and they are such a great open space to share your creativity. Sometimes when I get artist block, it's just so hard for me to create something, but every time I go on VSCO, I am always able to find inspiration, and that's what's so great about it. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!